Hey everyone, I'm Dennis.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen.
And we are your hosts for the Hello Warrior podcast. Today we have Christine McDonald from Campus Housing joining us here today. But first I think I'll introduce myself, pass it on to Kristen, and then we'll get to Christine. So my name is Dennis. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Waterloo where I studied biomedical sciences. Now I'm an undergraduate recruitment specialist working for the University of Waterloo where I get to travel across Ontario and speak to hundreds of students and even parents and really just talk more about the university journey and everything that the University of Waterloo has to offer. And it's a really great experience.
Hi everyone, my name's Kristen. I'm a less recent graduate than Dennis, but I graduated with an honors degree in psychology and anthropology. Really loved it, and I'm a national marketing and recruitment specialist here at Waterloo. And like Dennis, I get to chat with high school students. Absolutely love it. Favorite part of my job. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and learn more. But yeah, let's introduce our special guest for today.
Hi everyone, I am Christine McDonald. I'm the marketing specialist for Campus Housing. I do all things marketing and strategy, and I love welcoming students, their supporters, and their parents year round.
Awesome, perfect. Thanks for joining us again today. Remember to submit any questions that you may have for our podcast on our landing page, which will be linked in our description below. If you do submit a question, you do have a potential to get sort of like a swag item that we're giving out. And we have some student questions that we've implemented in our podcast today. So stick around to the very end to hear those. But we do have some very commonly and frequently asked questions that our prospective students have asked us kind of throughout the recruitment season, and we're going to ask Christine today. So we'll start with number one. So could you just kind of speak more generally about campus housing options that we have? So kind of the number of residences and the dorm styles that we offer at Waterloo.
Yeah, so Campus Housing has 8 different residence communities, which we call them. 6 of them are strictly first-year communities, and 2 of them are for upper year or graduates and families. Every year, we have over 5,700 students living with us. We are the 4th largest housing operation for universities in Canada. So we just kind of fall behind Western, UBC, and U of T. So yeah, we're very, very large. We also have 4 university colleges that are located right on campus, and all of them offer housing options as well for first-year students. So yeah. What else do we have on there?
Dorm style.
Dorm style, yeah. So we have traditional style residences at Campus Housing, and that would be your basic dorm. So you might see it like on videos or movies or something, and that's when you have just a bed, a desk, closet, dresser in your room, and then you would eat all your meals in a cafeteria on the main floor. Our traditional style residences will have study rooms inside. We have gyms, we have music rooms, we have multi-faith rooms that you can find, lots of space for studying as well as for socializing, which is a really big thing when you're in residence. We also have suite style residences, and they would be like apartments. Mm-hmm. So there could be 3 or 4 students per apartment. They would all have single rooms, and then you'd have a shared kitchenette or living area. So lots of options amongst our 5,700 beds.
Do you mind me asking a question here? I'm going to interject, Dennis. I think students, when they hear about the different residence options, often like apartment or suite style, they're like, oh yeah, that's what I want. Mm-hmm. But I know in the past I've heard you say that actually traditional style bedrooms actually have a really high satisfaction rate.
Yeah, so I don't know I can't remember if I mentioned, but we do have single rooms and double rooms in traditional style.
Right.
But most first year students, when they come, they're like, I want a single room.
Exactly.
And they just kind of like think or plan their year for that. However, a lot of our rooms are in double rooms, and they might not be the first choice or what students are looking at. But at the end of the year, we do student satisfaction surveys, and the most popular housing situation amongst students are those double room traditional style dorms. And yeah, I really think it facilitates, socializing, meeting new people, meeting people outside of your faculty as well. There's just like a lot more room for interaction, and they tend to be a lot more fun. So I lived in a traditional double room, and I really wouldn't have done it any other way. So yeah.
I like that you brought up that connectiveness piece and just like students being able to access these different like events and networking opportunities from housing options, which is really great. Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to ask this question and then add another one onto it, if that's okay. So why, if you were to give recommendations why students should live in camp or on campus in residence, what might the reasons be? And coming back to that connected piece, and I was just curious if you happen to know, say, the percentage of first year students that choose to live in residence.
Yeah, so about 80% of incoming first year students to Waterloo live on campus for their first year. And that's a huge number because we do have a lot of students from the region who might live at home and just commute to campus day after day. So the majority of students coming will live on campus, and we do have a lot of students from the region who decide to live on campus for that first year as well. It is a really, really big year for students, and one of the first major life changes for a lot of teenagers who are like looking into adulthood. They're leaving home for the first time. They're going outside of their high school, which is a lot more family oriented, but they're just like really going outside, moving on, big transition year. And we support students throughout those transitions from beginning to end. And you really don't get that when you're living off campus in an apartment building. We have dawn support, we have residence life coordinators, we have tutoring, and we have tons of other programming so that students can really, get used to the new lifestyle, get used to the new time management. Like that's a really big thing too, managing your time. And so there's like always help and friendly faces along the way.
Nice. You mentioned dawns. What are dawns for maybe people who don't know?
Yeah, so dawns are campus housing staff, and they are assigned to each floor or unit and allotted to a certain number of students. They'll do, weekly meetings, they'll do check-ins, they'll kind of, start you off on your way. They might go through your schedule with you. They're, just like a friendly face that you can always go to with questions or, any problems that you might be having or experiencing your first year at Waterloo.
I always think dawns, so I was a dawn myself at St. Jerome's, and I tried to think of it like, you're just like a mentor, someone who's gone through the process. And I think students, like you said, you really value that. And I think it's cool because, like you mentioned, the supports that are just built into residence, academic supports, whatever. Like I was always impressed when I was in residence, how many of us would just study together. We were all in Psych 101 and we would study like in the cafeteria. And you just might not get that, say, if you're living by yourself.
Yeah. No, it's great. And, there's also tutoring and
that's huge.
And so in addition to like living learning communities, which we can talk about in a bit too, but
I think one of the things is like coming from I was from the region of Waterloo, so I actually lived at home, so I think that was my one kind of mistake throughout university. I wish I definitely did come to residence in first year, but I did end up kind of staying at home for all 4 years of my undergrad.
And you can't get that back.
I know, exactly. Exactly.
So it really it's a very like well-rounded experience when you live on campus for first year. So
absolutely. I had one of my closest friends was from the area. She did, like you mentioned, she lived just in her first year, and then she lived at home. But she said, I want that experience. So absolutely, I agree. I think that actually would be a great time. Do you mind talking about living learning communities, because they're pretty cool?
So living learning communities are areas within residence. It could be like an entire floor, or it can be like a number of units, because we have them within both traditional style and suite style housing. But basically you'd be living in an area with people from your faculty or program. So at Campus Housing, we have over 20 living learning communities. Renison has living learning communities, and so does United. And I think Conrad Grable has the Music LLC.
I think you're right.
But you're assigned a peer leader. That peer leader will set up a meeting with you when you come to residence, and they'll kind of kickstart your E1 academic success. The peer leader will also schedule tutoring sessions or study sessions with people on your floor. But it's great because I lived in a arts living learning community, and when I moved into residence, there are people on my floor that they're kind of like-minded. We had classes together, so like right off the bat we were walking to classes together, like we could study together as well as like exchange notes, that sort of thing. So it's just a great way to like start off your year and like I said, with academic success, and
For sure.
Meet people,
Built-in friends.
No,
like,
exactly.
Totally, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. The peer leader are also hired through the faculties, so like it's a direct connection with you and your faculty, and sometimes it's been known like for profs to show up.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
to certain study sessions or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits, and there's no additional fee.
Right.
So if you
Yes.
live in a living learning community, it's part of your that one residence fee, and I would definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know about that.
No, that's fantastic.
But I guess the big question now is housing guaranteed for all incoming first-year students?
Yes, it is. It's also guaranteed for transfer students too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but as long as you are a first-year student, you're guaranteed for housing if you apply by the deadline.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And the deadline is?
The deadline, June 3rd this year.
Beautiful. And can you choose your residence building?
So you're guaranteed a bed,
Yeah.
and after the deadline closes, we send out the campus housing preference form. That's if you decide to live with campus housing. And on the preference form, you're asked to rank where you would like to live. So students, they can put a double room at Rev, or I want to live in a single room at MKV. And they are preferences, so they're not guaranteed, but we do try and our best to assign students to, their first, second, third choice.
Right. And I heard somewhere that of your top 3 choices, it's like 80% of the time you'll get those top 3 choices. Is that true, or is that a myth?
It's a myth.
Be a great one.
It's really hard to say where students end up, but yeah, like I said, we try. So some students do get their last choice.
Yeah.
But like I said, it ends up being like your residence experience is really what you make of it.
Absolutely.
And like how you choose to use all the resources, and like how you decide to go out there and make new friends, and like see what who's on your floor, who your neighbor is, that sort of thing. So yeah, we that's just like, it's up to you what your experience is like, and
That's
how you
perfect.
do with preference.
Absolutely. Some people might come in saying, I want a traditional room, and I know me and Jessica are coming in together, and we're like, we know we want to live together. Do you mind just talking about that process?
Yeah, that's a really big question for high school students. Like the number one question is like, can I live with a roommate? Yes, you can. 99% of the time, roommate requests are paired. So as long as students fill out all their information correctly, they will be put together in a room. And we prioritize roommate requests.
Right.
So
Awesome.
you can also make roommate requests if you want to live in a suite or a townhouse. You can request to live with your friend in one of those. And then we obviously do roommate requests for traditional style.
Cool. I didn't know that you could do it even with suite style. I just
Yeah.
assumed it was traditional, so that's awesome.
You can make one roommate request in our suites. So there might be like a 3 or 4 bedroom suite, but you can just have one roommate request for first year.
Gotcha.
As upper years, you can have up to 3 roommate requests.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very
so say
cool.
you want to go and live in Columbia Lake Village in a 4 bedroom townhouse, you can ask to live with 3 people you know.
Oh,
That's
really
Or
cool.
you would live
That's
together.
cool.
Yeah.
Is there a meal plan required? So people go into residence, do they need to select a meal plan? And how does that work?
Yeah, so the colleges, meal plans are mandatory. It's one fee, and they're all you can eat. So it's exactly what I mean as it sounds. And then at campus housing, because we have so many different housing options, and we have the suites and the townhouses, which you have your kitchenette, meal plans are not mandatory there. If you are in a traditional style residence where you do not have a kitchen in your room or like within a close proximity to your bedroom, meal plans are mandatory. But we do have cafeterias in all of our traditional style residences.
And I find too, and you can probably speak to this, that the cafeteria is like, I mean, the stereotype is like residence food is terrible, but my experience was that when I lived in residence, I actually ate significantly better than when I ended up living off campus because I had to make food for myself. And just that it's not that stereotype that I think would have been maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago or something.
Yeah, I would say it's very different. I know in campus housing we'll have, maybe up to 8 different hot food choices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There'll be vegetarian options. There's always a halal option at campus housing. And then we'll have, an omelet bar going on, and then like a pasta bar at lunch, and then like a burrito bar at dinner. So like there are so many options. We have a gluten-free section, and then there's like we'll have fridges with sandwiches and sushi and salads. There is a lot of food, and I feel like students are eating a lot better in their first year university.
That's what I found
within our cafeterias than they would off campus. But like there's always like tons of healthy food options, and as for dietary accommodations, it's a big question coming in. We're able to accommodate those because we have such big eateries and we have the staff to support them.
That's awesome.
If there's any major dietary accommodations like allergies, for example, we tell students to send us an email leading up to it. And if there's anything that might be affecting your health, you could always fill out an accessible housing form when you apply for the first year guarantee.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Great.
just do that as soon as possible.
And just to follow up on that, when students in main campus housing, so not the colleges, you pay or you use your walk card. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you have a walk card. So that's your student card at Waterloo. A lot of students don't use that term. It's lost. You have your student card and you just tap it. When you're in and out of residence. Yeah.
Easy. Can upper year students continue living on residence? I think you already alluded to this a little bit.
Yeah, so with our 5,700 beds, we have a lot of upper year students, and more upper year students are choosing to stay on campus and live with us in housing. I think that's because the cost of rent has gone up so much in Waterloo. That now we are, like an affordable, not even affordable, but comparable costs.
Yes,
and when you live with campus housing, we're all inclusive, right? So, and we're not really a landlord. We are an affiliate of the university. We're a trusted housing, housing provider, and it's all inclusive. So that would be like your energy bills, your Wi-Fi, plus you'd have access to 24/7 front desk services, and then you'd also be assigned a Dawn. Like you still have that Dawn to make use of while you're an upper year student. So all the great additives are still there.
Awesome.
Plus the proximity, you can't get any.
Exactly. And you still have the living learning communities as well.
You can't beat that.
No.
Yeah.
And I guess this kind of brings up this sort of next point. Because more students are continuing to live on residence, I've heard that there's a new residence building coming out soon.
Yeah, we are going to break ground on a new residence building this summer. So I'm not 100% sure when the completion date is going to be, but we'll offer housing for all years. So it'll be mixed year communities.
Wow.
And there'll be a range. So there'll be some traditional style dorm rooms, and then we'll have like more apartment units. But it's going to be like a really beautiful, amazing community. We're really excited, and it's been a while since we've had a new building.
And how many more beds is that going to open up then, give or take?
I don't know exactly.
Gotcha.
Between like 300 and 400.
Okay, so that's a good number.
Yeah, that's
awesome. It's just going to be. It's actually on the LRT line.
Okay.
Right across from CMH, Claudette Miller Hall. So students will be able to access Claudette Miller Hall eateries if they want. It's just across from engineering. So we're very excited.
In a slightly different topic, one we often get is like some students might say start co-op in their first year, or if they're an upper year student living in residence. How does co-op work with residents?
So with residents, we offer it for 4-stream and 8-stream students. I don't know if I'm going too deep with our new listeners, but 8-stream would be fall, winter, and 4-stream would be fall, spring. So if you're applying for first year, we will assign you to residence based on your stream. But say you are a fall, spring student and you have a co-op in the winter, and that co-op is in Waterloo, you can apply to live on campus for your co-op that winter.
Wow.
So it is a separate application. Our first year contracts are for 2 terms, not 3, right? It's the 8-month. But it's still an option for any co-op student. And that's first year through 4th or 5th year.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, and some co-ops are remote, right? So students can even apply if they don't want to go home, or if they're international students and they want to stay in Waterloo. It's an option.
Right.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And we'll do an episode on co-op, those jargon terms. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
But that's actually, if I was a co-op student, that would be relieving to hear that it's not like, I have to work around it. So thank you.
Exactly. Also changing topics slightly. We know that students are always trying to find ways to get some money, especially in university. So what are some different ways that students can maybe get involved in the housing department that may help them with earning a little bit of income? I know you mentioned Dons. I don't know if they get some sort of salary or like a stipend, or if there's any other kind of positions that we have to offer.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different positions within campus housing. Over half of our staff, I'd say, are students.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have a 1-day position that we call SARAs, so they're special event residence ambassadors, and we hire them for our open houses. So fall open house, March open house, and you go Waterloo Day, and you can come and work for 1 day, but you get it on your resume.
Absolutely.
You get to see what it's like being a residence ambassador. You get to show off, and share your experiences with visitors. And then we have residence ambassadors, and those are for students who are in residence, and what they would do is they would give tours of their room or their residence building. So we also have asked, residence ambassadors to create content if they need it. So
cool.
if that
That's
is
awesome.
up your alley, you could be creating content and getting paid to do that sometimes. For, our social media account, or, even testimonials for our website. So there's a lot of different options. Dons are for upper year students, and their housing is stipend. So if you become a Don, you don't have to pay for housing.
That's really nice.
For the
That's
terms
really nice.
that you're employed with us.
At this stage, I find students say they've applied. They're waiting to hear. Maybe they get in and so on. I think often I point them to your website because especially since the pandemic, you can do pretty good tours of the different styles of residence. If a person couldn't make it here to see them even before June 3rd, for example.
If they can't make it? So our website is quite extensive. And we also have a YouTube page where we have 360 videos. So you can go on and you can, click through our different, all of our different residences. We also have guided tours on YouTube. So if you don't want to do it yourself, a student will take you through and show you their room and common areas. So we'll start at the front desk and go through the cafeterias. Cool. But there's a lot on there, so you can see it all. And if you can't make it, they'll be really helpful.
Yeah. And I think we'll be sure to link it down in the description below. So
absolutely.
Students can access that on YouTube, and even we'll link the website in there as well. So that's perfect. I think for the last little bit, we want to swap over to some student questions that we got.
That'd be great.
Take it away, Kristen.
Sure. So our first question is one that we pulled off online, and I think this goes back to how your students are curious about how they get picked for what residence. And the question was, is it hard to get into MKV?
So yes and no. Some people will say it was my first choice and I got in, right? And some people don't get that. There are 300 beds in MKV. So
Right.
it really depends on how many students, request that for your preference. And we do have a living learning community in MKV. I think it might be recreation and leisure.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So be sure we list online where all of our living learning communities are housed.
Yes.
So
Gotcha.
it could be like a really good idea if like you're interested in those buildings. It'd just be like an advantage, like
Absolutely.
just to checking that box to say, yeah, I want to be in that LLC. So yeah, it's really hard to say like where students will end up. If that student wants to live in MKV, they might be also applying to live in a one or single room at UWP or
Yeah,
UW
exactly.
Place, which are suites, or they might be wanting to live at Columbia Lake Village, which are townhouses. So
Right.
yeah, we really try and do our best to assign students where they want to live.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Is housing preference first come, first serve?
No, it's not. We do use this IntelliSign system to assign students based on their preference. It is not first come, first serve. So as long as you apply by the June 3rd deadline, you'll be sent the campus housing preference form, and everybody is like, you just have to complete it by the deadline. If students do not fill out the campus housing preference form, then they will be assigned to what is available.
Gotcha.
And what is the deposit along with?
It's $500.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Just so people know to fill out, if
Yeah.
you have to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that deposit's due by June 3rd.
Yeah, the deposit is due with the application. And also I mentioned the accessible housing form. So if you
Yes.
have any medical issues that could affect your housing for the year, be sure to fill out our accessible housing form and submit accompanying documentation from a doctor or specialist so that we can assign you somewhere that will best suit your needs for the upcoming year.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so the last question is just based on your experience, just for fun. What is your personal favorite residence on campus? What's one that you love?
Well, I work in Ronate Village.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I see the students there every day. I see how happy they are. Like, they're always walking around. Ronate Village is all double rooms, so it tends to be that residence where students are like, I don't really know if I want that. I don't really want to share a room. But it has the highest satisfaction rates at the end of
Interesting,
every year.
right?
Every year. And students are like, I'm so glad I lived there. I would do it again. So I love Ronate Village. I think V1's great too. I love their eatery and their cafeteria. It's like this really big, beautiful room with like high ceilings and like floor to ceiling windows. And V1's really close to like the gym, like PAC.
Yes, that's right.
And the SLC. So I guess I'm more biased towards traditional style housing because like that was my experience and like I worked there, so I'm seeing it firsthand.
Yeah, I love that. Like I mentioned, I had lived at St. Jerome's, and for me, I prefer the traditional style too because I didn't know anyone coming into Waterloo, and so the idea that even if my roommate and I weren't best friends, but I just had like a buddy, to me that was
Right.
really big.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, I completely agree.
And then there I was living at home.
Yeah, there's Dennis. But you made it anyway.
That's
I
But
made
yeah.
it anyways,
You're here.
exactly. We still got the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Christine, for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you on our first episode and podcast. But if there's any questions that anybody has, please be sure to submit that onto our Hello Warrior page and then complete the registration form, submit your questions, and you will be kind of in this pool for a giveaway that we have going on. And you'll get some pretty cool Waterloo merch. So it was a pleasure having you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. I can give you some campus housing merch for this podcast.
Oh, that's perfect. That's awesome.
And if anyone has any questions, they can always email housing@uwaterloo.ca.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
And the self-explanatory email, which is my favorite.
There you go.
Housing@uwaterloo.ca.
Very easy.
Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Christine.